Welcome to Category 5 Technology TV, episode number 420 for Tuesday, the 6th of October, 2015. Nice to see you. Tonight we've got quite the show in store for you. We've got James Avery is joining us from Adzerk. They're an online advertising company. We're going to be talking about the problem with online ads. They suck. What can we do to make them better? We're going to talk to the CEO from Adzerk in just a couple minutes' time. Also, after that, we're going to be checking in with Jason Mainella from TeenyDrones, and you're familiar with them. We're going to be looking at their product line, the flagship TeenyDrone little microscopic drones. We're going to be checking those out, as well as looking at a coming build so that we can build a racing drone as well. So that's all coming up. It's going to be an intense show. Enjoy the show, folks. Sasha Dermatis over there in the newsroom. How are you?
I am great. It's going to be a great hour. Here's what's coming up in the Category 5.tv newsroom. Patreon's database has been compromised, but lucky for us, they use a strong encryption on their data. A fuel additive has been successfully tested to reduce the explosiveness of jet and diesel fuel. Japan will have driverless taxis on the roads next year. There's a new round of stage fright vulnerabilities that allow attackers to execute malicious code on more than 1 billion Android phones. And Amazon will stop selling Apple and Google streaming media players effective later this month. Stick around, the full details are coming up later in the show.
This is Category 5 Technology TV. Starring Sasha Dermatis, Hillary Rumble, Krista Wells, Eric Kidd, and your host, Robbie Ferguson.
Welcome to Category 5 Technology TV. I'm your host, Robbie Ferguson. So nice to have you here. And tonight we are talking with James Avery from Adzerk. Adzerk is an online advertising agency that serves up billions of ad impressions each and every month. Customers using their technology include Reddit, BitTorrent, Stack Overflow. James Avery, of course, the CEO of Adzerk. He's here to join us tonight and discuss the state of advertising in general. James, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
James, there's a problem with advertising right now. We're going to get right into it. What is happening? I see this trend where we've got so many advertisements that are bombarding us online, some of them malicious, some of them causing stability or possibly performance issues on websites. So the trend is that people end up adding ad blockers to their computers and things like that, and it's having a terrible impact on some of the legitimate advertisers out there. Can you share a little bit about your perspective on this, being the CEO at Adzerk?
Yeah, so Adzerk is a little bit different in that we try to work with publishers who are building native ads or building ads that really tie in better to how a website is used. Or selling ads directly, which is kind of the old-fashioned way of doing it, which is actually talking to an advertiser, taking their money, and then running the ad on the site. Right. Over the last kind of 4 or 5 years, especially, we've had this explosion in what we call like ad tech, which is really building these more and more sophisticated ways to serve ads on a given website, and a lot of it's based on audience, like who you are. So previously, it would be if you went to a local Toronto news site, they would target you based on the fact that you live in Toronto, or maybe you're viewing the sports page, so you care about hockey.
Right.
But then it started to become a game of basically learning as much information about you and storing that in an online profile. So when you went to that sports site, they would tag you as a sports fan or a hockey fan. When you went to something in Toronto, they'd tag you as living in Toronto. But then when you went to look at a website, you'd get a pixel added to you, data added to your user profile to say you're interested in this, this kind of utility or this kind of online software. And then it was all the targeting is based on who you are as a user and not based on the site anymore. And what that does is added all of these layers of abstraction so that when you actually go to a site, one, more than ever before, it's no longer just an image or like a simple single ad call to load the ads. They could be doing 40 or 50 requests to load your ad.
Wow.
And that's because they're hitting so many different pixels or different request servers.
James, is this something that I know browsers these days have a do not track little checkbox that we can set? Is this something that is that impacts ads' abilities to track us like this?
Yeah, so unfortunately, nobody really pays attention to that do not track. We're one of the first. We just recently announced that we joined the EFF's coalition, their do not track coalition, to actually start giving our customers the ability to honor do not track. But for the most part, no online ad tech companies honor that header.
Wow.
Basically, in the browser, you can set do not track, and it then sends a header on each request. But there's no reason that they don't need to do it. There's nothing pushing them to do it. Mozilla has actually done a lot in this space, and they're getting ready to turn on something called tracking protection, where what you can do is then say block anything that doesn't honor the do not track. So it's good that the browsers are kind of starting to get into this. Of course, it can only go so far since Google Chrome is the most popular browser, and it's run by the world's largest advertising company. So they're not going to be incentivized to really cut down on online tracking.
That almost seems like a bit of a catch-22 for sure. When we were looking, Sasha had a news story a couple weeks ago about how malicious ad code was used to inject a DDoS attack program into hundreds of thousands of phones. It was somewhere in the range of 750,000 phones, I believe, in mainland China. So these phones were then able to DDoS an unknown server with an astronomical amount of traffic. So Cloudflare's assumption was that, or at least what they had found, is that it seemed this had come in through ad serving online. And the fear is that, okay, I as a user hear something like that, and the first thing that I'm going to want to do is install an ad blocker. But then while I'm protecting myself in one regards, now I go to my favorite news site or possibly an online resource such as category5.tv, and I'm blocking the ads there for a legitimate revenue stream that's going to those services that I use. So ad blockers can kind of come across as being malicious in a way, can they not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that ad blockers, I think they're becoming almost a necessity with some of the malware that's out there and the amount of requests and the performance issues, and especially if you're on mobile, that's your data plan getting eaten up. I think the New York Times did an article recently that showed that like 50% of, I think it was Boston.com was advertising, or 60%. So if you're downloading it, 60% of that content was ad content.
Wow.
So it's like that's a huge hit to your data plan. It's a huge hit to your privacy because they're tracking you in ways that you don't understand and you haven't given them access to. And then also it has the potential for malware.
And these are legitimate companies.
Yeah,
that seems irresponsible to me as an advertiser to be putting that level of advertising in the faces of my users.
Well, and it's really the publishers, right? So what's happened is the publishers, especially lots of these more traditional publishers, have been really crunched for money, right? Because the whole idea was turning print dollars into digital dimes, but then they're doing whatever they can to make money from their digital ads. And when it's install another pixel or install another script tag, they do it because they need that money. So in a lot of ways, the publishers have been hurt by the move to digital, especially traditional publishers.
Sure.
And they're not tech companies, so they're not out there inventing their own types of advertising like Facebook or Twitter or Google. They're relying on these ad tech companies, and that's kind of caused this, this level of like abstraction and misdirection. And that's what really enables fraud, fraud and malware. So fraud and malware are both only possible because the system is so complex. So you can go and, if you're trying to get malware out there, you can go and load up an ad, get it approved. It looks like a legitimate ad, and then switch it out. Just switch the DNS of where it was pointing, so that now it's pointing to some sort of malware install. And there's no way that the publisher is ever going to know that that's being served. The only way they can do it is there's companies out there that will scan it for you, basically, or scanning it from different IPs and things like that. But it's very reactive, right? Like it might take 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes. and then you have to go turn it off, and so there's a human involved to like turn it off. So you're talking about, you know, how many people would get infected if New York Times was serving malware for 15 minutes, you know, or even 1 minute, you know. So I think that's because it's become so complex and there's so much, you know, abstraction and misdirection around ad tech that it's become easy to slip things like malware in. And then also fraud is the other big thing, which is hurting legitimate publishers. Is that like there's a company, AppNexus, who's a large exchange, that they came out publicly recently and said that when they started checking for fraud, 60% of their traffic was fraud.
Oh,
you know,
man.
we're talking about, you know, that's tens of billions, if not, you know, probably 100 billion impressions a month of just fraudulent traffic that advertisers were paying for.
Right. Now, these are all really huge numbers. So how does a small blog compete with this kind of thing? How do we as content publishers, how do we combat this, or is there any hope for online advertisers?
I think there is. I mean, I think for publishers, I think there's a lot of hope because I think that things are going to get better. I think one of the things is helping to drive. One of the problems that advertisers are driving, you know, they get to drive this in a lot of ways. Like the big advertisers who are spending the large amount of money, they get to drive where things go. But you see big publishers like Facebook and Google and people like that who have built out better systems, and then the advertisers kind of have to go to them because they have such a big audience. I mean, we've seen with with a lot of our publishers, they draw a line and they say, we're not going to do that stuff. You know, like Reddit sells, you know, almost exclusively direct to advertisers that want to work with them. They don't put tracking pixels. They have a very strict privacy policy. Like, that's not the norm, but we think that the newer, more tech-focused publishers are moving that way. And I think that the traditional publishers are gonna have to catch up, and they're gonna have to become more technically savvy and build innovative things that help them differentiate themselves.
What kind of technologies should developers be focusing on, and what technologies should be left kind of in the past?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things we do at Adzerk, to kind of promote ourselves for a second, is that you know, we have we provide an API for publishers to be able to build their own, you know, native ad systems. So, you know, Reddit has like a native ad system where you can sponsor a post on Reddit, which is great because that's something that's unique to Reddit. You can't sponsor a Reddit post anywhere else. You can't get that kind of exposure anywhere else. And basically, and they can use our API to kind of, you know, they don't have to build all the back end to do it. You know, they don't have to go build their own ad server and things like that. Like we give them those tools, but then they're doing the innovation and building something unique that they can sell to advertisers.
Gotcha.
And that's really where I think advertising needs to change, is that there's, you know, we haven't had any rules or guidelines for publishers around what's acceptable. And things like, you know, we need to honor do not track. If a user doesn't want to be tracked, we need to honor that. And maybe that means you try to get that person to sign up for a subscription, or you try to promote something else, or you sell specifically to, you know, to advertisers trying to reach people who are privacy conscious or are high tech. But also just things like trying to limit the amount of bandwidth and latency and things like that added by advertising. Like it's not that hard. Like it actually, you know, it used to be that way. It used to be that advertising was really, you know, low cost, but as we've added so much on top of it, that it's become this way. And I think you could set some reasonable guidelines to say 10% of the payload should be ads. Like that's reasonable, right? Like, or even 20%, right? Because that's like kind of what you know, I don't know how many commercials there are on a TV show, but it's something like that, like 20 minutes.
An unreasonable amount for sure. That's the truth, right? I mean, that's what pays the bills, I guess, in many ways. But so, as the CEO of Adzerk, do you see ad blocking software working with companies such as Adzerk to say, okay, here is a responsible advertising agency, so let's let these ads through? I mean, there has to be. I can't see any other way.
There's definitely some of that already going on.
Yeah.
So AdBlock Plus has what's called the Acceptable Ads Program.
Okay.
Which for a long time has been kind of lampooned for being extortion, because, you know, people would say,
I'll pay you to get on that list, to let my ads through.
On the list. Yeah. But what they're actually doing now is they're moving it to an independent, goes on or not on the list. So I think that's interesting. That's a good step forward.
Okay.
And then I think also AdBlock, like normal AdBlock, not AdBlock Plus, has agreed to use that same list. And I agree, one of the larger iOS content blockers has also agreed to use that list. So I think that's a good step forward. But I don't think it's totally fair in that regard of, like, you know, kind of giving this independent board the ability to decide what is an acceptable ad.
Right.
As a tech person, I'd like to think that we can come up with a better technology solution to this.
The problem is there's always malicious use for this stuff. I mean, think about Flash, for example. How could you, as the advertising publisher, know that whether or not there's malicious code within that Flash file? So is the answer just to cut Flash entirely from...
Oh, totally. Yeah, Flash has already been cut. Like Chrome has already cut Flash, which is good. But, I mean... Flash was notorious for being really bad about it, but there's also the possibility that, you can write malicious JavaScript. If there's a vulnerability in a browser, you can write malicious JavaScript. So it's never going to be 100% because, somebody could hack your site and load malicious JavaScript. There's always going to be a level of that's possible. Yep. The problem is with the current ad tech system, we've made it really, really easy for somebody to get massive distribution for malware. And that's what needs to stop.
Right, just pay the high bid and your ad is being displayed to millions of people potentially.
Right, and you're probably not even going to pay your bill, right? Because they're probably getting billed afterwards. And it's probably going to be hard to find the Chinese malware distributor to get him to pay his ad bill.
Sure, yeah, just as an example for sure. What is your vision, James? We're speaking with James Avery, the CEO of Adzerk. You can check them out at adzerk.com. What's your vision of the future of advertising?
So I think advertising has to get a lot more innovative and a lot more in line with how users use the internet. So if you think about this, we kind of just went with the billboard newspaper, commercial model and put it on the internet. But there's actually a huge amount of interactivity that you can take part of on the internet that we haven't, used with advertising. And how do we make advertising that is relevant to the user and something they're interested in and something they can possibly interact with? Like these things will actually make it compelling. Right. There are good ads on the internet. There's just not enough of them. And I think that when we get to native ads where we're talking about sponsored content or a sponsored Reddit post or somebody says something really nice about you on Twitter, like you should promote that. And too often that's just the advertisers haven't picked up on that yet. Too often like sponsored tweets on Twitter are just the company saying, hey, buy our product.
Yeah,
that's not interesting. Like why don't you it's like you shouldn't be like, hey, watch Category 5 this week. It should be pay to promote somebody who said, hey, just saw this awesome episode, of Category 5. Like that's a better way to promote it because it's more organic and it's more promoting, why I'm going to Twitter. I'm not going to see ads. I'm going to see what other people think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a gray area for sure. And it's a tough thing because there's this line of, okay, do not track, but show me relevant advertising. And with something as specific as Category 5 technology TV as an example, I can guess, okay, well, we've shown this product, and this product on the show. There's probably some interest surrounding those, so I'm going to place ads on my site for those products, and they'll link out to places that you can buy it, for example. But it's pretty impossible for me to continually do that as a content publisher. I really rely on the third-party advertising providers, and maybe that's the scale of, maybe that's the difference between someone like Reddit, who have entire staff that dedicate themselves to this, versus a smaller blog or online webcast. So where's the balance for us?
Yeah, I think for me, I would be curious to know what the banners on your website could pay versus somebody who is sponsoring a segment on the show or something like that. Like I feel like that would be a lot higher value, and it is harder, and it does take more work. But I think like when it can provide enough value, I think it's really interesting. And I think you'll start to see, the old ad networks were kind of problematic because there were usually people that weren't involved. But I think like something that I think we'll see a lot more of is things like Radiotopia. So if you're familiar with them, it's a podcasting collective.
Okay.
And basically, I think what they've done is they've kind of built. It's part of a nonprofit. It's part of PRX, which is a nonprofit. And what they've done is they've kind of built this, coalition of podcasts, and they're helping sell advertising for podcasts where the host isn't somebody who's going to go sell their own advertising. And I think we should see more of that kind of stuff. I think that's the kind of stuff that could really help. And these are, going back to like the old form of ad network of, getting like-minded groups together,
right?
That have similar content and selling it for them. But ad networks really got perverted into these monstrosities that just did everything programmatically, and it was all about making money.
Sure.
Making it for the ad network, not necessarily for the publisher.
True. James, we're speaking with James Avery from Adzerk. James, where can viewers go to find out more about the direction that ads need to take, about your products and services as well?
Yeah, so if you go to adzerk.com and you go to our blog, we post a decent amount there. I think we also have links to, I've written a couple of op-ed pieces for Ad Exchanger recently, especially around like how can we improve advertising and how can we kind of, fix these problems that are in the system right now.
Very good. James Avery from Adzerk, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate you sharing your expertise. Of course, the internet is so funded by the ads that you see, and so the instant that you decide, okay, I'm going to install an ad blocker because of a particular service is malicious, or you've heard some rumors that JavaScript is being used to exploit computers, and so the de facto thing is to install an ad blocker, and you don't realize maybe that you're possibly hurting the revenue streams of other service providers. That's our perspective. But then you, as a content provider, a blogger, maybe you've got your own podcast or show online, you tend to rely on those ads for your revenue and to be able to keep the bills paid. So it's something to consider. James, appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. This is Category 5 Technology TV. Just reach over here. Welcome to the show, episode number 420 for Tuesday, the 6th of October. It's nice to have you here. Sasha, how are you?
I am great. All right. I will first tell you that Category 5 .tv, sorry, nervous, is a member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here, which is cat5.tv/TPN, and the International Association of Internet Broadcasters, which is found at cat5.tv/IAIB.
What a week, eh? We've been having. It's been a pretty awesome time. Welcome to everybody who's joining us for the first time tonight. Nice to see a pretty packed out studio as well. Nice to have everybody here. And we've got some people who have traveled from afar to be here as well. And we're going to be bringing Jason on the show from TeenyDrones.com in a couple minutes' time. How have you been? You're way over there in the news set.
Been great. I think after this episode, everybody's going to get drones for Christmas.
Ooh.
This is how I feel the direction will go.
TeenyDrones to boot.
TeenyDrones,
yeah.
They fit in stockings.
And we're going to talk all about TeenyDrones, but if you haven't checked them out yet, you can go to cat5.tv/TeenyDrones. I've been enjoying playing with it, but a great way to learn how to fly a drone, because it is a 6-axis gyro, so you can learn to fly on this little one that if you crash it, it doesn't explode, it doesn't break into a million pieces, you can keep flying. Mm-hmm. And so then you can work your way up to something a little more expensive, but this is a great entry-level drone to get you started, so perfect. And we're going to be talking to Jason from TeenyDrones in just a couple minutes' time. So if we're ready, we'll head over to the newsroom.
All right, it's Tuesday, October 6th, 2015, and here are the stories we're covering this week. A hack attack on Patreon's database has caused the leak of some information about Patreon users, but your passwords, payment information, and other sensitive information is safely encrypted. A fuel additive has been successfully tested to reduce the explosiveness of jet and diesel fuel. Tonight, I'll have the details on how this may save lives by making fuel tanks much less volatile in the event of a crash or attack. A taxi company in Japan will begin testing their driverless taxis on roads outside of Tokyo beginning next year. They're calling it Stage Fright 2.0, and it allows malicious code to be executed on practically any Android device going all the way back to Android 1.0. We'll tell you what you need to know coming up. And Amazon is taking a sledgehammer approach to drive more users to purchase their line of TV media devices. They're cutting out Apple and Google media devices from the Amazon shop. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
You've got mad skills. Now hone them. Learn new skills or improve your existing ones with online video tutorials and training from lynda.com through our special link at cat5.tv/Lynda. Learn software, technology, creative, and business skills you can use today to help you achieve your professional goals. Join today and start learning. We'll give you this chance to try it absolutely free with unlimited access to all of the courses. Sign up now for free, cat5.tv/Lynda.
I'm Sasha Dermatis, and here are the top stories from the Category 5.tv newsroom. About 15 gigabytes of data, including names, addresses, and donation information, have been published online following a hack attack on crowdfunding site Patreon. Patreon allows people to make regular donations to artists for projects. Projects currently seeking funding include a science video series featuring former International Space Station Commander Chris Hadfield, and Category 5 uses Patreon to fund this show as well as the other programs we offer. With that in mind, we are entirely confident that the payment information was not accessed. According to Chief Executive Jack Kont, credit card details were not stolen. In fact, he revealed that they do not store full credit card numbers on their servers and no credit card numbers were compromised. In addition, although accessed, all passwords, social security numbers, and tax form information remained safely encrypted with a 2048-bit RSA key. He said that the passwords were stored only in their encrypted forms, and so accounts are generally safe, but users are still urged to change login details just as a precaution. According to Patreon's statistics, the site attracted 16 million viewers per month as of this past June. The site was breached during a test or a debug version of the site, useful for developers, but in this case, also visible to the public. So, Robbie, if Patreon users are worried in any way, like our Patreon users, all they have to do is change their login password or their entire login information.
Well, I think the password is the key thing. It's good to note that Patreon used good security practices in order to store your data. It's an unfortunate case where, it could be spun any way. I mean, there are tons of news stories out there that are spinning it that there's been this huge data breach, and it is a huge data breach, but the data is encrypted, and it's strong encryption, so we have that assurance that, hey, everything was put in place by Patreon to protect our data. So when a data breach occurs and your passwords are stored in plain text format, a good example would be the Sony hack,
right,
where personal information was stored in Excel spreadsheets and unencrypted and perfectly available for anyone to read and share. That's one thing. Now, as a fully encrypted database, there's not a lot of information there that can be used against you, but they are saying that, hey, it's probably best that you change your password just to be safe. It's like a precautionary to give you that reassurance that, hey, I've changed my password, so I'm cool. But payment data, passwords, all that, social security numbers, everything that has to do with identity theft or anything like that, were fully encrypted and should be considered, well, they were taken, but they can't be read.
So
it's one of those tough situations.
It's like a good story, bad story.
Yeah, like, a little bit.
There was a data breach, but guess what? We passed the test.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame that it happened, and it shouldn't have happened, but at least our data is stored securely. Yeah. It's like if a backup drive had all of your files on it, and personal files at that, and it was sitting on the front seat of your car, and somebody broke the window and took it. Well, if they're just stored on the hard drive, they can just plug it into a computer and access all the files. No problem with it, right? If it's encrypted, however, they'll plug it in and it's just a bunch of gibberish. So that's what you want, is that things be encrypted.
Right. So thank you to our Patreon viewers.
Yeah, it's a tough call, because I want you to understand that, because we do use Patreon, right? And perhaps I should say, if you have lost any confidence in them at all, which I would suggest that you reconsider that, because like I say, they have safe storage methodologies and things like that. But we do have donate.category5.tv. That's another way that you can support us. We have monthly contributions available to you via PayPal as well, and simply shopping through our affiliate links, our partner links, is a great way to support the show as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Robbie. Chemical engineers have produced an additive for jet fuel that reduces the risk of violent explosions, but at least in laboratory tests, does not compromise engine function. They say it could cut the likelihood of fireballs erupting when an aircraft and other vehicles crash or are attacked. It contains very long polymer molecules which stop the fuel from forming tiny explosive droplets, but then they break when it throws through the pipes and then rejoin. Efforts to produce explosion prevention additives, including major initiative following a deadly runway collision in Tenerife in 1977, have been hampered by twin problems relating to the chemistry of hydrocarbon fuels. Once they had a polymer that looked promising, the team added it to both diesel and jet fuel and tested how well it prevented explosions, both before and after putting it through a fuel pump 50 times. The results have been promising. Tests included shooting a projectile at fuel tanks with a propane torch burning in the backsplash. In treated fuel, the droplets in the mist were bigger and any tiny ignitions quickly extinguished themselves, whereas the untreated fuel tanks predictably turned almost instantly into a fireball. That'd be a fun test to watch. Tests in generator motors and a diesel engine showed that the fuel was just as efficient with the additive and even produced less soot than untreated diesel. If future development goes well, the additive could be available for commercial use in 2 years for diesel fuel and 5 to 7 years for aviation fuel. So that's a real breaking news story for things like aviation, where plane crashes. Sometimes it's a missed landing that can cause a really big explosion. If they could hamper that and add with...
Sounds good to me.
Saves lives. All right. While the Western world continues to trial its driverless cars without any paying customers in them, Japan's Robot Taxi Inc. is taking the bold step of testing a driverless taxi service next year. For the initial test run, the service will be offered to around 50 people outside of Tokyo, with the driverless cars taking them from their homes to local grocery stores. A human operator will remain in the driver's seat just in case there are any hiccups. In total, the cabs, which will be retrofitted Toyota Estima hybrid minivans, will drive a distance of about 3 kilometers, part of which will be on major roads in the city. If the trial goes well, Robot Taxi Inc. hopes to have a commercial service up and running by the year 2020. Judging by the company's promotional video, the service will be aimed at an older crowd rather than early adopters. Initially, the taxis will run routes in places where the public transport isn't readily available, as well as help ferry tourists around. Wow, that'll be awesome. I can't wait for that to happen in Canada.
It reminds me of the Johnny Cab? Was it Total Recall? I think it was. Did anybody remember that movie? The original, not the remake. Forget about the remake. It didn't happen. But the original, the Johnny Cab.
No clue.
It was.
Was it a driverless cab?
Yeah, it was like they were looking to the future, and they figured it out.
Yes, and now here we are.
Here we are.
All right, there's a new round of stage fright vulnerabilities that allows attackers to execute malicious code on more than 1 billion phones running ancient as well as much more recent versions of Google Android's operating system. Stage Fright 2.0, as it's being dubbed by researchers from security firm Ziperium, is a set of 2 bugs that are triggered when processing specifically designed MP3 audio or MP4 video files. The first flaw, which is found in the libutils library and is indexed as CVE 2015-6602, resides in every Android version since 1.0, which was released in 2008. The vulnerability can be exploited on even newer devices with beefed-up defenses by exploiting a second vulnerability in libstagefright, a code library Android uses to process media files. When combined, the flaw allows attackers to use booby-trapped audio or video files to execute malicious code on phones running Android 5.0 or later. Devices running 5.0 or earlier can be similarly exploited when they use a vulnerability or a vulnerable function inside libutils, a condition that depends on what third-party apps are installed and what functionality came preloaded on their phone. Google representatives have said that the new round of stage fright bugs will be fixed in an update scheduled for release this week. Once Google makes the update available, it could take as long as a week for it to become available to users of Google-branded Nexus phones and even longer for other brands. So, Robbie, I have an Android phone. How scary is that?
Well, yeah.
So,
and
really...
you wonder about those ads again. It's just another entry point, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So hopefully they hurry up with that debug. All right. Amazon is to stop selling video streaming TV devices from Google and Apple because they don't interact well with its own media service. The online retailer said it had made the decision to avoid customer confusion, and the devices will be removed from sale by October 29th. Amazon wants to sell products that work with its in-house streaming video service known as Prime Video. Prime Video is not available on Apple TV or Google Chromecast, but it can be watched via an app on Apple and Android smartphones and tablets. Amazon said along with its own Fire TV, it will continue to sell other companies' devices that are compatible with Prime Video. These include Microsoft Xbox and Sony's PlayStation. Amazon has rapidly expanded its online content, using it to attract subscribers to its Prime loyalty membership scheme, which offers fast delivery on purchases. And Google has just unveiled a new version of its Chromecast TV device, and Apple is due to release the latest version of its TV this month. Richard Windsor, analyst at Edison Investment Research, said that by refusing to sell such products, Amazon could be diminishing the experience of its users. Amazon has used similar tactics with book publishers. Last year, it blocked pre-orders for some books from the publisher Hachette, while the two sides negotiated over prices. Many authors were angered by the move and accused Amazon of being anti-competitive. One analyst calls it a sledgehammer approach and says it implies that Amazon is doing everything it can to prevent users from accessing what very well may be superior service from its competitors. I feel like sort of Amazon has the right to do that.
Well, I suppose. But is it that they're actually, let's give it another twist and say, could they be using Google's approach and saying either make it work or we're going to pull it? Because if it all revolves around Amazon Prime, what happens if Google suddenly says, okay, fine, we'll include full support for Amazon Prime? Oh. Or is that even possible? I don't know. No mention of Roku, though, eh? So... Mm-hmm. Hard to know, because I don't know of any Amazon Prime. Let me know if I'm wrong. Maybe there is an Amazon Prime channel for Roku, but I haven't seen it.
Very interesting. Big thanks this week to Roy W. Nash and our community of viewers for submitting stories to us. If you found a news story that you would like to send, email it to newsroom@category5.tv. For all your tech news with a slight Linux bias, visit the category5.tv newsroom at newsroom.category5.tv. For the Category 5.tv newsroom, I'm Sasha Dermatis.
Thanks, Sasha. This is Category 5 Technology TV. Welcome to the show. If you're new here, hey, make sure you check out our website, www.category5.tv. It's free to join, free to register, and free to become a part of this really cool community. Join us in the chat room. It's Category 5 on Freenode. Want to say hi to everybody that's there. So great to have you, and so great to have Jason, who made the trek out here from TeenyDrones over in Quebec. Nice to see you.
Well, nice to see you too.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having us.
So we're going to talk a little bit about TeenyDrones. We've seen, just so you know, we've shown TeenyDrones on the air previously.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Love these little guys. As I was mentioning just before the news, perfect little drone for learning, because I think there's almost a little bit of a fear to get into drone flight because of the investment. So if I'm going to jump into it, I don't want to crash it. I've seen the YouTube videos, hitting the walls.
Yeah, you know, when you're flying the larger scale drones, obviously, again, when you're going at a higher speed and you have a lot more weight behind you, gravity does its magic, right? So you're definitely going to shatter a lot of larger drones when it comes to that, that's for sure.
Tell us a little bit about TeenyDrones, how you got started, what your vision is for the product. And
well, basically, so TeenyDrones, we're coming from Montreal, Canada. We basically got into the drone industry because everyone was always asking us, you know, when we were kids, we all used to fly helicopters, we used to fly planes, we used to fly all the different type of RC units, and basically you'd fly them once and box them, you hit a wall, and you know that was the end of your experience with those a lot of times. So as you know, a big kid myself, and my partner Olivier, we got together and we're like, let's build something, you know, that's a little bit more indestructible, something that people could learn on, something that, you know, people could have fun with, whether you're an adult or a kid, right? So we basically got together and we built the TeenyDrones. So something that, you know, basically the propellers are very flexible, the body itself, the plastics we chose are very flexible as well. So, you know, that could definitely, you know, help you in learning how to fly your drone a bit more.
So looking at a TeenyDrone, there are other micro drones that look similar. Well, this one's not quite a micro.
Yeah, exactly, compared to this one.
There are similar looking drones out there that are fairly small.
Yeah.
one of the things that stands out to me about the TeenyDrone is the size of the controller. Why, when they shrink down a drone, do they also shrink down the controller to be this little itty-bitty thing? Versus a TeenyDrone, if you could hold up the controller, you see it is a full-size controller, comfortable for adults or youth to play with.
So I asked myself the same question when getting into the industry myself. So when actually seeing other samples, they had small remotes. I never understood the concept of it. You know, it's not like a kid uses a different Xbox remote to play Xbox or a different PlayStation size remote to play PlayStation. They're all the same size. So everyone is accustomed to this type of size of gaming remote.
Yeah, I don't care if I've got a 19-inch TV or a 32-inch TV. I don't have a little remote.
Yeah, a little remote to go with it.
It's a 19-inch.
It's just really not how it worked out in the industry.
It doesn't make any sense.
So for myself, I never thought that made sense. And even today, I mean, people want to use full-sized, RC remotes to fly the nano drones too. So,
can that be done?
That can be done actually. So we had some modders in the community work on that, and they've gotten the TeenyDrone to work on their larger remotes. So
very cool.
So then they could go from flying their racers or their film drones to the TeenyDrone basically. So they could kind of move around all the different channels. So it's definitely something that could happen. So we really thought, like I said, I'm a gamer. So at the end of the day, I never figured I'd want to play a game on a small remote. So at the end of the day, that's why we went with the larger remote.
The real deal.
It was the real deal. Also get a little bit more distance. We have more room to fit the antenna in there. It's a larger antenna. That gives you a bit more room. So you could get some...
And you touched on the quality and the durability of the TeenyDrone itself versus the competitors.
Propellers.
Maybe you could touch a little bit on that. What makes this TeenyDrone stand out from... was it the CS10?
Well, there's the CX10, the Jason CX10. There's the Proto X. There's a couple of different versions out there on the market right now. Basically, there's the Axis drones, and you can see that they've all kind of gone with similar framing, similar models. So we've actually changed the propeller quality, which was a big one for me because especially when learning to fly a drone, I mean you're pretty much hitting walls and you're hitting tables and you're hitting everything all the time.
Cats,
girlfriends, fiancés. In my case, my beard used to be a bit bigger. I've gone tangled in there a couple of times. It's coming back towards you and got stuck in there. That gets stuck, and my fiancé has experienced a lot of hair entanglements. So the propellers do on a lot of other models shatter on impact. We want to go with something that you can get multiple uses out of because you're never going to be a pro in your first couple of hours. So knowing that, give people a better plastic. So we use a type of rubberized plastic, which actually gives it more flexibility. So when it bends, hits a wall, you can just bend it back, and as you've seen, it flies again.
I've had it happen.
Same thing with the body, right? So body too. A lot of the other ones in the market shatter. So the arms and legs and all that type of stuff will shatter on impact. We've gone ahead and just made a bit.
So this is the competitors' units.
That's the competitors. Basically cheaping out on materials, maybe in my opinion, or maybe just not knowing. They just love drones. They built a drone. They fly. They're pros at it, so they figure it's okay. But how about the kids who are just going to hit the wall 100 times in a row?
And you know what? I'll be honest with you. As a father, I've got three young kids at home, 10, 8, and 4. And with the TeenyDrone, because of its durability and the fact that you can crash it and stuff, I know that it's 14 plus technically, but the kids love it. And because it's not going to disintegrate, I feel more confident as a father to let them play with it. We'll take it out in the field, and they just kind of go up and down and do flips and stuff. But for them, it's a load of fun, and I'm not. If I had this out and my 10-year-old trying to fly that, I'd be probably pretty nervous.
I mean, you should be nervous yourself flying that. So
Well, with a TeenyDrone, I don't have that problem. So.
And I mean, definitely like weight. Definitely. So weight distribution definitely has a huge factor on that, right? So also because it's only 13 grams. I mean, there's not much weight for it to have an impact. So when it crashes, obviously that's a big factor that it can't shatter on an impact because there's not enough weight there. And same thing within the wind, well, you're getting really good at this. Even in the wind, people are always like, oh, but you can't fly it outside. But I'm like, I mean, the thing is, it's so small and has no weight. There's not much weight to push in the wind. So I've gone outside in some really windy conditions and done the test. And of course, it's going to be more difficult flying than anything in the wind. That's normal. But I mean,
these are incredibly light.
So
they do fly.
They do fly in the wind, and they can compete against the wind. I mean, if it's 100 kilometers outside, I mean, I don't think anyone should be outside flying anything at 100 kilometers. 100 kilometer winds. But people do like to make that argument a lot. So
okay, so we've got some other components here. TeenyDrones, of course. Now, this I should point out. This is the limited edition TeenyDrone. So this includes what?
So the limited edition it includes the carrying case. It has the full drone inside. It has the remote. It has an extra set of propellers inside. Has the charging cable, and has a very detailed instruction manual on how to fly it.
Cool.
And what we've actually added recently too is we've opened up our training center, which I want to mention. So we opened up TeenyDrones.com/training center, which is included in the instruction manual.
Okay.
So that gives you like how to fly, how to fix, how to repair, how to basically do anything with this little nano drone. So
that's the next thing. As a father, okay, they're going to crash it, they're going to wreck it. How hard is it to fix?
So again, something that's quite easy to fix. I mean, at the end of the day, it has 4 small screws. So I mean, once you take those off, all the components are seen. So we do sell something called the crash kit. So if you do so happen to crush this almost indestructible drone, or your dog decides to use it as a chew toy, you can get 4 extra motors, the body, the propellers, and everything to go with it.
Okay.
Very easy to fix, and we have YouTube videos on how to do all that. So
Cool.
you go to our training center. Obviously, we can't include the videos in our box, but we have a link to it, and you could go online
that's
and
the
learn
way
how
it's
to do
done,
everything.
right? So, and that I think that we're seeing a trend. Raspberry Pi is a good example of how we're getting back interested in DIY.
Yeah, the Raspberry Pi is a great example. You know, I love that thing. So I think a lot of people today are really getting back into the fact of learning how to do all these things on their own, right? So the do-it-yourself kits online are very famous.
You've got do-it-yourself kits for TeenyDrones, do you?
So that's something that's coming out shortly. Okay. We're building on that. So we're trying to get into the school systems and educational systems. So we're putting together do-it-yourself kits and, you know, really trying to do that. So that's definitely something that we're going to have in the near future.
Cool.
So that, you know, basically parents and kids could, you know, put together like I used to do with models. Now you'll be able to do with drones.
Sure.
You know?
It's
or when you used to build your Lego
day.
boat with your dad or your mom. You know, I don't think as a 3 or 4 year old or 5-year-old you knew how to build a whole huge ship yourself. So this is something that, you know, you'll be able to do with them and enjoy.
Great. This is Category 5 Technology TV. You'll find us online, www.category5.tv. I'm talking with Jason Mainella, who joins us from TeenyDrones. You can find out through our link more about them, cat5.tv/TeenyDrones. And you can also pick up TeenyDrones, which are becoming more and more readily available. I noticed that they're on Amazon Canada at this point.
Yeah, we just got onto Amazon. We're reaching out to some larger stores to be announced soon, so that's coming soon.
Very good.
And basically you can pick us up online as well, anywhere.
Very cool. Now, this is obviously TeenyDrones are what it's in the name. They're very tiny. We can't really show you up close and personal with the components, but you've brought some larger scale components here to show us what is this that we're looking at?
So basically what I've done here is, since the TeenyDrone is actually a beginner drone, right? People are always going to be interested in expanding on their skill level. So eventually, you know, people are seeing these type of drones out. You know, this is what's called a racing drone. So people are getting more into the sport side of drones, or the video side of drones. Basically, our goal to do from TeenyDrones is eventually so that people can build their own kits. Like you said, to do it yourself is getting more popular with the Raspberry Pis, with computers, with general electronics, robotics, all that type of stuff. So we're really looking to get into the crowd of people who want to build their own drones and fly them, race them, and learn the technical side.
Okay, just to halt for a second.
Yeah.
When you say racing, what are we talking about?
In particular, this drone right here that you see on the table.
Yeah.
So this one is a drone racer, and its maximum speed is actually 80 kilometers an hour. So this drone goes really fast. So there is a set group of people out there, you know, that are creating organizations and groups, and they're getting out there and they're basically building obstacle courses and races. And I mean, they're doing it on a professional level. So this is not something, you know, that is much.
This is getting real.
This is getting very real. Yeah.
Very cool.
You know, the IDRA, International Drone Racing Association, is a big one. They're huge in the States. So they haven't reached to Canada yet, but I mean, they're just putting on shows. And I mean, when I watch these guys, I'm impressed, you know. Wow. It brings me back to the BattleBot days and the Junkyard Wars and all that type of stuff, you know. Like, that's what I liked watching on TV when I was a kid, and I can't wait to see, you know, these things emerging into that now, pretty much.
So TeenyDrones as a company, are you providing kits that we can start building things like racing drones? What's the connection there?
So as a drone company, we decided to open up something called BYOM, Build Your Own Multirotor.
Okay.
So basically, that's the onset. We're basically just using our, telling all our clients that are using the TeenyDrone as a beginner and basically evolving it into something a little bit larger. So anyone who has an interest, we're willing to, help them through that, ease that process for them. Bring them from the small guy that they can learn to master, fix and repair for a couple of bucks, and getting into the the larger sport. Because the big difference again, you break a TeenyDrone motor, you're looking at maybe $3-4. You break a racing motor, you're looking at $20 to $40. So
yeah, there's a substantial difference. I can tell just by looking at it.
Yeah, you can just tell the plastics. This is carbon fiber, aluminum, and G10. So you're looking.
So do you work to collect the contents of these kits, and you figure out what works well together, what flies well together, so that I don't have to get onto the web and try to figure it out myself?
So that's what we're going to be doing with a couple. We're going to have obviously our own signature racers that are going to be built by us, and stuff that we've tested, and frames that we've designed or worked with other drone designers to get the frames out there. So we'll have our own set kits, and then you could buy all the accessories, and we could either sell it to you built, or we could sell it to you disassembled. So you could build it yourself.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to have
so for the DIY people that enjoy doing it yourself, well, I could get this as a bunch of parts like this.
Yeah, basically, like
or
you can see here. So this is
Let's see if I can. I'm going to see if I can get right in here.
Yeah, maybe get
it. Yeah.
So this is the carbon fiber frame that you would get normally with your drone. So you have your top plates. You got your this is actually to I don't know if we could. This is actually to mount a GoPro on it. So for those who like to film, this is the GoPro mount for it. But basically, yeah, you'd be getting the carbon fiber kit. Basically, is the frame. You have the 4 motors, which are separate. You have what we call the ESCs, which are the basically electronic speed control modules.
Yep.
So that controls all the motors.
So that's like the brains that make it say, "Hey, I need to turn this one down because there's a wind on here."
Yeah, so basically what you have here is a computer, onboard computer, right? So when all 4 of these ESCs are going to connect to the onboard computer, and the onboard computer is going to let it know with the gyro, which motor it needs to pick up, so it could keep balance at all times, right? So that's like the beauty of drones, is the fact that they can stay balanced so well, right? That they go in the air, they could carry a glass of water and not spill it. Stuff like that is something that's in the programmation of drones. So with this, you're able to really get into that. You're really able to see all the separate components and put together yourself. And what's really interesting about the onboard computers too is that
can you see that?
So maybe let me just open that up so we can take a look. So this is called the CC3D.
Okay.
So that's a model of onboard computers. There's like anything. There's multiple brands. There's multiple different devices.
It's pretty self-contained, eh?
Yeah, it's well cased. This model actually uses a CC3D, but in a red metal casing, so it's a little bit more protected if it does get into crashes.
Okay.
And what's nice about this is, if you're in the programming side of stuff as well, is you could use different programs to like flash this board and install your own software. So you could use something called OpenFlight. You could use something called CleanFlight.
Now, why would you want to do that? I mean, because for me, I learned how to control it. What is the advantage of reprogramming it?
Well, I mean, depending what field you're in. Are you a videographer, a photographer? Are you a racer? Are you, casual user that just wants to fly? So different programs will give you different options.
So, for example, would it give me smoother video if I were to program it for video use?
Certain ones will. Yeah. So you could actually set up basically different. I guess not speeds, but I mean you can set different settings to the actual program to allow you as a videographer to use it better. Also, what it's doing is kind of like cars today. So when there's software updates or there's anything like that going on, you could update the computer board, which will just give you a more stable motion with your drone. Obviously, as we're adding new devices to drones too, then this is something that you could upgrade, right? So it's not a hardwired computer that you buy once and then you can't do much about it afterwards when the new models come out. This will allow you to actually expand. And when you're in the racing or filming, like you said, you could have a bad crash. So this could come off of your drone. You can just buy a new frame and then continue using it.
So then you only have to replace the individual pieces.
Exactly. Right. So in this case, this is something that could break quite easily. You hit a wall at 50 kilometers an hour, you're breaking it. So this is definitely something. Like I said, it's in multiple parts. Modern day Lego. Pretty much.
So how much soldering, how much skill is involved in a project like this? So going from this pile here.
So going to this pile here to this over here. So I like to say anyone could do it. You know why? Because the program.
Sasha, do you accept this challenge?
Do you accept this challenge?
I did build a Raspberry Pi.
It's true.
So So I think, if you could learn some basic soldering skills, you could pretty much build this. There's not much complication to it other than knowing where positive and negative has to go.
Okay.
And then other than that, the computer software does most of it for you. So like anything today, it has a nice tutorial. You walk through it, you go step by step, and basically it'll help you program your remote, connect to your receiver, control all your different motors, load your balance.
Something I don't see here is the remote.
So the remote, So let me pop that up. So I'm currently using. So this is the bigger remote. This is the Devo 7. I have that mounted on with my screen at the moment. To be honest with you, these type of models don't usually fly with screens. They fly with FPV kits, which means actual goggles that go on your face, so you feel like the pilot. You are in the pilot seat. You're seeing what the drone sees. But as an entry level, the screen is the less expensive option to go with a drone like this. So when you're looking at this remote and you're looking at the TeenyDrone remote, I mean, you're getting a lot of different functionality that you can involve in here. So what's nice, like I said again, with the programming of these ones is that you could actually program, like hover motions on your switches. So you can actually program your drone to hover in one stable state. If you're adding GPS functionality to these drones, you could, set the go home button.
Is this that modular that I could just
add? You could just add to it, yeah.
Adding stuff?
You can just keep adding cup holder, coffee dispenser.
Ooh. Okay, so with the screen, where's it pulling the video from?
So
I don't see like a.
So the
screen itself has a FPV.
So the screen is attached to this. Well, you see the antenna on the drone right here, actually, and you got the camera right in the front there.
Okay,
so this
let's
is like
pull up an overhead for you. So we've got the antenna on the side here. So this is for the video.
This is for the video feed,
not
exactly.
the controller.
No, the controller. No, it has
a
smaller receiver for the.
Is that strictly FPV or can I record?
So for this model, it's strictly FPV right now. There's no recording attached to it, but again, something that you can do.
Okay. You mentioned the GoPro.
So again, you can add a module to this, which will then allow you to record your FPV as well. So again, everything is modular on the drone, depending on what you want to do. If you want to get into videography and photography, you could turn this drone into a videography and photography drone. But I mean, if you're looking for racing, you're going to be looking more less components, the better, right? So the lighter you are, like a NASCAR, the lighter you are, the faster you're going to go, and that's what people are looking to do is hit top speeds with racers. So, but like again, this module, you could also just pop a GoPro on top of this drone. So this drone actually has the mounts in the front. You can put a mounting plate, and then it could launch a GoPro on the front of it. And then you can just hit record and go with the GoPro on it. So, and
as far as balancing, when you get that extra weight, does it automatically balance itself?
So automatically balances itself.
It does. So I don't have to make sure that it's perfectly centered or anything like that. As far as forward or back, it's gonna.
Yeah, that's what's really nice about the advanced technology in most drones today is that they self-balance. So a quick reset usually allows them to auto-calibrate. Wow. So I don't know if you noticed that with the TeenyDrone. If you ever take a bad crash, hits a wall, and then it doesn't fly right, you put it down on a stable table, turn it on, off, reset it, and then recalibrates itself. So these ones kind of work on the same. They have somewhat of a mini AI that calculates what's going on and then balances itself to always be stable, right? So it just finds one stable point and always makes its effort to stay there at all times. So, which is why you see some of the really advanced ones could carry glasses of water.
That's awesome,
right?
You make the comparison as far as features go between this, which is obviously a very sophisticated racing drone, to your TeenyDrones, which are very inexpensive, and versatile. And it's amazing that I can start with TeenyDrones, learn to fly, get good at it, and then upgrade to something like this, and the learning curve is basically nil.
Yeah,
why is that?
Well, basically, when you're looking at something like the TeenyDrone, there's a 6-axis gyro on it. So you're going to have your yaw, you're going to have your pitch, you're going to have your 360s.
Can I explain to the viewers what that means?
Yeah, definitely.
So if I'm flying in a wind that's coming up on here, and typically it would blow the drone this way, well, it's saying, oh, there's a wind, and it's forcefully pushing against it.
Back this way,
and similarly, if I'm flying this way, and whatever happens, it's going to try. It's going to right itself.
It's going to right itself all the time. So the way, I guess, if we want to go back to the basics, maybe for some viewers who don't know how drones really work, is that when it's on a stable table, when you're looking at the gyro, which is actually in this computer. So this computer actually controls the gyro. So when you're programming it, when you go like this, you'll actually see the levitation going on.
Neat.
So this is what actually has the gyro inside of it. So it's an electronic gyroscope, right? So when you're looking at something like this, basically the four motors are working together into one central point. So they're all pointing into one central point, and basically they're always forcing to try and keep that point. So even when it's turning this way, all four motors are still trying to get to this point. So these two are going to kick back in and try and bring it back to that point. So that's how I like to describe it to everyone. It's like, picture almost a pyramid going on, and there's a point where they're all focusing towards, and every motor is always pushing that way. That's kind of like what you would want it, how you want the gyro to work properly, so that it stays stable at all times. You know.
That's interesting.
And I find a lot of people kind of. You know, it's hard to understand that side of it, right? Like, how do they stay so stable? Because everyone's had the helicopters, right? They've been spinning around rooms for years now, right? Yeah. And people just don't understand, you know, how these ones could just hover and you let go of the remote and they stay where they are and they don't move at all, almost, you know?
Sure. Very cool. Okay, so now this is a up and coming line that is coming from your company. Yep. Can we contact you to get a hold of one of these now, even though it's not technically available?
Yeah, I mean, you could hit us up on our email at info@teennydrones.com. I mean, we are looking for like beta testers and people to help out with the growth of the company as well. Yeah. So, you know, people who are willing to, you know, try this model out, fly it a bit, and send us some fixes, some, you know, enhancements that we could do to it. I mean, users will definitely find something.
I think we've got a whole room full of beta testers here.
Yeah, today. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So
everybody's.
If I tried flying that, the whole thing would be a fix. But yeah.
Well, you can start with a TeenyDrones. See,
I smashed the wall and it didn't work after. So how do we fix that?
Yeah. Good to start with the TeenyDrones. Work your way up. Good idea. Okay, well, so it's info@teennydrones.com to find out more. We won't mention anything about pricing or anything. They are quite affordable, as a matter of fact. Yep. And the reason I won't say specifics is because it's bound to change here and there as.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on materials now. We're testing different stuff. You know, so we're going to have entry level, you know, setups, and then we're going to have more advanced setups as well. So
cool. Will they ever go faster than 80 kilometers an hour?
Oh, that's definite. I mean, drones will just get faster and faster as they go. I don't think there's going to be a limitation to that right now. Cool. I mean, as for our drones, I mean, depending what we want to do with them, but I mean, I've already.
He's like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to have my own, a different model that'll go with different speeds, but I've already seen some drones going over 150 kilometers an hour, which is wild, right? So
what?
So people are
Where do you get a field that big? Like, you couldn't race around a racetrack.
Yeah, these are racers, like, you know, they stop on, you know, they could do like hairpin corners and stuff like that. Yeah. They could really just go around anything, you know. So these guys are pro racers. I don't even know. Like, most people can't even drive a car at 150 kilometers an hour. Yeah. So people are flying drones at that speed, and they're just whipping around courses. So I don't.
And with these people that are racing at that speed, now, of course, when you get going really, really fast, you're going to kind of have your nose pointed toward the ground a little bit.
So you're getting a lot of ground view.
Yeah, so we see that FPV camera focused on the front. So am I looking at the ground as I'm flying? What happens? If I'm doing 150 kilometers an hour, I'm not going to be able to really. So
this particular camera that we're using on this drone has a little bit of a wider view. But again, you're still looking a lot at the ground. So when you are a racer, you are kind of guessing. You're calculating the guess at a certain angle. You shouldn't
Danger, Will Robinson.
Well, you shouldn't be dropping at that point. You should be staying at the same level and just going forward and then coming around a corner and hoping that you're keeping that level. But again, that's practice, right? That's a lot of practice. I like to you know, think of like NASCAR. You know, like how people drive at 200 and something kilometers an hour on a track. You know, and they're learning every little piece of that track and how to gain their time ahead. So, like, you know, the same thing's going with drones. You just got to practice every day and get really good at it.
Learn the course.
So that's pretty much it, you know.
Very cool. I know it's just a 1080p camera. That's cool. So I'd definitely be interested in.
But you know, the biggest technology I think that's going to change that for racing, and I mean even for filming, is attaching the FPV goggles, the goggles you're actually wearing. And
I've heard people that will crash and then they fall over because they're so
I've done it a couple of times, right? Like jump out of the way, like especially when you're flying back towards yourself and you see yourself in your own camera, which is a weird thing to see, right?
Out of body experience.
It's like out of body experience going on, and the drone's flying, you know, 50 to 80 kilometers at you. you sometimes do tend to jump, or even when you hit a wall, I mean, you're still going to like fall backwards because like you feel like you hit the wall. I mean, I don't know, like you're pretty much into it. You know, while you're flying, you're not thinking like, well, am I flying this or am I just using the remote? You know, you're thinking you're flying it.
When we were kids, Wonderland had a ride which was really just like an IMAX theater, and you stand and it feels like you're in the car, and yet you're completely stationary. So I would think it would be kind of the same sensation.
And I think it's going to go to the next level where you're going to have, I don't know if you've seen like hydraulic chairs yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, people have built racers.
They're not,
right?
No.
So imagine connecting that to an FPV kit on this. I don't think it's been done, but I mean, that's something I would love to get.
Well, now that you've said it on the air,
yeah, now it's
somebody's out there.
Someone please build it and send me one.
Send them an email.
Someone send me an email. I'll buy one.
Can you show us we're almost out of time here, Jason, but if you could show us the lighting apparatus that you showed me before the show.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool. And one of the questions that is that keeps coming in, TeenyDrones, they're very, very tiny. Oh, cool.
Okay, yeah, we got the lights there. Okay,
so this is for night flying and just for awesome.
So eventually, yes. Well, drones are hard to see. So having a big bright light flashing in the back is going to allow you to see that that's the back of the drone. So when the flashing light is the back, and the forward two eyes is being very bright.
That helps a lot for sure.
Again, also for night flying is a lot of fun. I go out at night and fly with it, and the camera itself is night vision on it. So I mean, you get some really cool
nice.
night flights with it.
Yeah.
And you can see really well. They're really bright LED lights, right? So you're getting a lot of brightness out of them. So nice. And if you ever do lose it in the field that you're flying in, it's easy to spot. Finding something that's just dark black and dark red in the middle of a field might be a little bit hard.
I like the light bar at the back too. I don't know if you can see that really at home because we're 30 frames a second and it's kind of flashing an LED. But it is.
Yeah, and you could change the settings on that.
Yeah, you can't even see it flash. Yeah. It's actually flashing every split second.
So you could change the settings to do faster flashes, less flashes, or a solid bar. Again, just how you fly and how you want to identify your own drone, basically, for that.
So the question I'm getting is TeenyDrones.
Yeah.
Do you have or will you ever have cameras in these bad boys?
So actually,
which is kind of creepy. It's very small, right?
So for your show, we just decided to bring out a prototype with us, which is a mini drone, nano drone with a camera. So we do have a version with a camera. It's not complete yet. So as you can see,
let's get.
It's using a 4.
You can get in there. Thanks,
Braden.
Wait. Braden's over here.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Get right in there.
So as you can see, it has a very small camera. It's a 480p camera. So you're still getting some decent resolution out of it. It's a lot of fun. The camera is really neat. You can take pictures, you can do video with it from the remote. We're just trying to work out some battery issues. Obviously, as you're adding cameras to small electronics, you're always limited on you're limited on this amount of flight time, right? Which is what everyone wants.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, cool, there's a camera, but like if you only get 3 minutes of flight time, how much can you really film or take pictures of, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that we're working on. But the model is going to be something that comes out in the future. We definitely would love for the camera to, be a main function on the TeenyDrone, and yeah.
Very cool. Now, these are available at cat5.tv/TeenyDrones. Do check them out. I absolutely love this as a learning drone or quadcopter. So check it out. cat5.tv/TeenyDrones. And Jason, it's so nice to have you here. Thanks for making the trip and being on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all very exciting. I love the line that you're bringing into Canada. And speaking of Canada, are these available in the United States or anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, so basically the TeenyDrones have been shipping out worldwide, as it so happens to be. So we've been shipping out to about 32 different countries at the moment, and we're strongly pushing our marketing to the States. So hopefully for the Christmas season, they're going to have that.
Speaking of ordering online, go to cat5.tv/TeenyDrones. We've got a coupon for 10% off for you right there. Perfect Christmas gift. Jason, such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
This has been Category 5 Technology TV. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. And next week, we've got a brand new co-host who's going to be joining us. And I'm looking forward to a great show and a great week to everybody. So check them out. Take care, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Category 5 TV broadcasts live from Barrie, Ontario, Canada every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching this on demand or through cable TV, check out the local showtimes in your area at category5.tv and find out when you can watch live and interact in the community chat room. Category 5 is a production of Prodigy Digital Solutions and is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 2.5 Canada. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.